just to make sure, let's look at question 18. I want to make sure we don't make a mistake with 18. 18 is another very, very easy question. But students make a mistake with it all the time. So on question 18, we have a center that is 0, -2, and our radius is the square root of 7. I do not want you to miss this question. It is very, very easy. Students don't make a mistake with the signs. When we write this in center radius form, what happens to our signs? What do we do with our signs? Remember? We switch them. So that comes down as an x plus 0. We don't even need that, but I'll write it there for right now. And what about the y? Well, it's not y minus 2, it's y what? Plus 2. And does it equal the square root of 7? No. What does it equal? 7. Right? Why does it equal 7? Because when you square that square root, it goes away. Right? So you have to make sure you square that. So when I write up my answer, what does it look like? We don't need that 0. So that's going to be x squared plus y plus 2 quantity squared equals 7. And that's it. That one I do not want you to miss. But I guarantee what's going to happen is someone will forget to switch the signs. So there are a lot of very easy questions in here. To just make sure you know how to do the concepts. 17 is another good one to look at. And it also talks about a circle. This one is kind of new. But for 17, we've got the diameter of a circle. The diameter of the circle has the endpoints. -2, 1, and 22, 11. Now, we want the radius. So what is the radius? The radius is the distance from the center of the circle to the outer edge, right? So we need to somehow find our center. Well, if we've got these 2 points on the edge of the circle, if we find our midpoint, that would be the center. Okay? So let's try to find the center by using our midpoint formula. And what's our midpoint formula? Our midpoint formula is x1 plus x2 over 2 and y1 plus y2 over 2. And this is going to give you the center. Okay, so that's going to give you the center. I'm going to label this as x1, y1, and x2, y2. So let's go ahead now and try to fill in our midpoint formula. So what do we then have? We have, plugging in our pieces, we have -2 plus 22 over 2. Then we have 1 plus 11 over 2. That gives you then 20 over 2 and 12 over 2. And what does that reduce down into? 10, 6. Now that is not our complete answer though. This is the center. How would we find the radius? What is the radius? The radius, remember, is the distance from the center to the outer edge. Okay, so we're now going to have to use our distance formula here. So we're going to apply our distance formula. And we're going to use our center that we just found. Along with, again, I just have extra pieces of paper here. Huh?
Like the one you use on the.
Yeah. What another way of working this out would have been to use those 2 points and then half it, because that's a diamond. You can either find the midpoint and then use that with one of the points, or you can use the center or the 2 endpoints and then half them. Either way. Find some more. I know I've got paper left here somewhere. Back in this. Okay. So once we've got that, now let's use our distance formula. What's our distance formula? Well, your distance d is the square root of x1 minus x2, quantity squared, plus y1 minus y2, quantity squared. And we're going to use our center, which we found to be, yep, 10.6, wasn't it? Yep, center was 10.6. And we're going to use one of the points, it doesn't matter which one. So we're going to use minus 2, comma 1. That's your end point. This is going to be x1, y1, x2, and y2. So go ahead and apply your formula. And that's going to then be 10 minus, watch your double negatives here, a minus 2 squared plus 6 minus 1 squared. Double negative here makes it positive. So that gives you then 12 squared plus 5 squared. And we know that 12 squared is 144. 5 squared is 25. Adding those together, we get the square root of 169, which is then 13. And remember, you can always look up your key online too, because I already have these worked out. So if you're missing a step or two, you can go online and find it, because they've all been worked out. We're just going over the ones I know we struggle with. Let's look at least one more here. This one, yep, answer would be a radius of 13. Another one that we haven't really talked about, but it's easy to do, is question number, let me find it here, the one with the 4 eyes on it. I'm going to look at question number 28. Now, on question 28, what we're going to try and do is we're going to try to find the original polynomial that this came from. So we know that we have the answers. X equals 4i and x equals minus 4i. And we want to work this one backwards. Normally what we would do is we would solve it and we would get our solution, right? We'd solve it by factoring, square root property. In this case, though, we're going to work it the other way around. So if these are answers, we need to turn them into roots. How do we do that? Well, if I move it over, I get x minus 4i equals 0. And the other one, is x plus 4i equals 0. So I just move them over. Now, when we multiply these together, this is going to give us our original polynomial, the one that gave us our answer. And so I set them to 0. And now we know this. We're basically working it backwards from the factoring. So I want us to take these, and I want you to FOIL them out. And this is going to give us our original polynomial, the one that gave us these answers. Normally we just factor and get our answers. Now we're just working it backwards. So if I FOIL this out, what do I get? I get x times x, that's an x squared. Outside times outside, that's a 4xi. Inside and inside, well, that's a minus 4xi. And last times last is a minus 16i squared. Does anyone remember what I squared is?
1.
Yep, negative 1. Okay, so we're going to replace that I squared with our negative 1. Now, what's going to happen to the middle pieces here? They're opposites, so they're going to do what? They're going to cancel out. And we know this is a negative 1, so that leaves you then with x squared plus 16 equals 0. And that is the original polynomial that gave us those solutions. Now we can check it pretty easily, because how would you check it? Well, let's solve it and see if we get these original answers. If I want to solve x squared plus 16 equals 0, I would move that 16 over, and then how would you get rid of a square? What property do we use to get rid of a square? Square root. And whenever I take a square root, what do I have to add in? Plus or minus. And what does that give me for my answers? Well, that gives you x equals then plus or minus 4i, which is x equals 4i, and also x equals a negative 4i. Right? All I did there was check it, but you see what we did was we worked it backwards. So I gave you the two solutions, you FOIL them together and get the original polynomial. So there's going to be a question on your final. It's almost exactly the same as that. Different numbers is all. I think that should take care of most of these. Let's just talk about 27 quickly. It's very, very easy. Which one of these do you think is the correct choice for 27? I don't want you to miss this question. Yep, it's a horizontal line, isn't it? Right? Now, is it undefined or is it 0? 0, right? Horizontal lines have a slope of what? 0. Vertical lines have a slope that is what? Undefined. This is our horizontal line, so your slope would be what? 0. Do not get those mixed up, okay, because there'll be one on your exam. Now, your exam may have a vertical line, but I put in a lot of easy questions on here, just so you wouldn't miss them, and they're kind of extra points. So this is a horizontal line, so it would be 0. If yours on your exam was a vertical line, what would it be? Undefined. So make sure you do not miss that question, because that one will be on there, and that's a very easy question. So let's talk about what's going to be due next class period. What's happening next week. So next week is our final exam. So that's going to be it for the class. Next week will be it. So next week is the final. So make sure all homework practice final and take-home final are turned in. Start a class next week. Make sure you turn in your any homework. Most of you are updated on your homework, but if you're still working on chapter 2, make sure you get that next week, next Wednesday. Make sure you turn in that packet that's got your take-home final and your practice final. Just so we know about the points. The practice final, as long as you complete it, that is going to be worth 15 points. The take-home final. The take-home final is worth 100 points, and that's going to be graded. So make sure you complete that. Make sure you've got the correct answers. Use your practice final to help you with the take-home final. And then what about the in-class final? The in-class final is worth 300.
300?
Mm-hmm.
300?
Yeah. But that's really going to help your score because look at some of the questions. I mean, you've seen some of the questions. Look at that question right there. That's one that you can get easily. There's a lot of easier ones on here. You're going to know exactly what to expect. Students generally do a lot better on the final exam than any other exam in the class. Dramatically, 10-15% better because we spend a lot of time going over it. You've got a practice final, you've got a take-home final. You will know exactly what's going to be on it. Okay? So you should have no problems at all doing well on this. I've given the same final for many, many years. Students always do better on the final than any other exam, far and away. By the way, what can you have on your final for next week? What can you use? You can have
Can we have 5 sheets of paper?
1 page front and back or note cards. As many note cards as you want.
Man, 300? I'm not.
So 1 page of notes or note cards. Yeah, but that's really going to help you out because you've got 100 points coming in for that take-home final. You should be able to get an A or a B easily on that take-home final. Use the practice one. And I give a lot of partial credit on that final as well. So there's lots of partial credit given on that too. And students always do better than what they think they will. As long as you study that practice final and the take-home one, you will do great on your final exam. And students, again, generally do a lot better because you've seen all the questions and there are easier questions. Like I guarantee that one we just went over on 27, there'll be that one on there. There'll be one like question 28 on there. I'll probably keep that one. I'll probably get rid of some of the more difficult ones and I'll keep a lot of the easier ones. I haven't decided exactly which ones yet, but I'll probably cut out a couple of the word problems, but I'll at least leave 1 or 2 of them on there.
I was going to say, if we have questions about the word problems between now and, then,
Yeah,
what do we do?
I'll be here before class because I'm here all day on Wednesday. So if you want to come in, an hour before or anything like that, I'll be here because I'm always here. Just find me. I'll be back in my office. But I think once you start looking at these, the word problems are easier questions. I'm not going to give you all of them. I'll probably cut out 2 or 3 of them. Because remember, I'm going to cut this down to 30 questions, and you've already seen them all. So I will see everyone then next week. Again, you can go back and look at that practice final. I've got it posted online with the key. And I'm going to also post this lecture here in a moment as well. I'll probably do that tomorrow. That way you can watch the video of it if you need to again to see how to do those logarithms and those systems of equations. There'll be several of those, and those are easier ones. And so there's a lot of questions that are not difficult on your final. So I will see everyone then next week.